Sarah felt the rumble of the subway beneath her feet, a constant vibration that mirrored the anxiety thrumming in her chest. The city, once a beacon of opportunity, now felt like a cage. Her tiny apartment, barely bigger than a closet, was suffocating. Bills piled up on the counter, each one a stark reminder of her dwindling bank account. Her job as a waitress at Tony's Trattoria wasn't cutting it. The tips were unpredictable, and the late nights left her exhausted and drained. She dreamed of opening her own bakery, filling the air with the sweet scent of cinnamon rolls and freshly baked bread. But that dream felt further away than ever. The city demanded so much and gave so little in return. She scrolled through job websites on her phone, her thumb hovering over countless listings from marketing assistants and office managers. Jobs she was woefully unqualified for. A wave of despair washed over her. Was she destined to be stuck in this endless cycle of struggle? Then, a listing caught her eye. Cook wanted, Sunny Vista Ranch, Montana. The description painted a picture of wide-open spaces, fresh air, and hearty meals cooked over a crackling fire. It was a world away from the concrete jungle she currently inhabited. The ranch needed someone to prepare meals for the ranch hands and occasional guests. A flicker of hope ignited within her. She loved to cook. It was her passion, her escape. Maybe, just maybe, this was the fresh start she desperately needed. The thought of leaving the city of trading sirens for birdsong was incredibly appealing. With a deep breath and a silent prayer, Sarah clicked apply. She had nothing to lose. The ranch job listing shimmered on her phone screen, a beacon of hope in the digital sea of drudgery. The advertisement spoke of home-cooked meals, starlit skies, and the quiet beauty of the Montana landscape. It promised a life far removed from the relentless hustle of the city, a life where the rhythm of the day was dictated by the rising and setting of the sun, not the blare of car horns. The picture accompanying the listing showed a sprawling ranch house, nestled against a backdrop of majestic mountains. Horses grazed peacefully in a nearby pasture, and smoke curled invitingly from the chimney. It was an idyllic scene, straight out of a postcard. Sarah imagined herself waking up to the sound of birdsong instead of garbage trucks, breathing in crisp, clean air instead of exhaust fumes. She pictured herself tending a small vegetable garden, picking fresh herbs to season her dishes. The thought of simple living, of escaping the constant pressure to keep up, was incredibly appealing. The ranch offered more than just a job. It offered a chance to reconnect with herself, to rediscover the joy in simple things. The idea of trading her cramped apartment for a cozy room with a view of the mountains was intoxicating. She yearned for wide-open spaces, for the feeling of the earth beneath her feet. The listing emphasized the importance of hearty, home-style cooking. They wanted someone who could whip up a delicious breakfast to fuel the ranch hands for a long day of work, and a comforting dinner to soothe their weary souls. Sarah knew she could do that. She could pour her heart and soul into every meal, creating dishes that nourished both body and spirit. The ranch wasn't just offering a job. It was offering her a chance to share her passion, to make a real difference in people's lives. The drive to Sunny Vista Ranch was long, but each mile felt like shedding another layer of city grime. As Sarah's beat-up Corolla finally crested the last hill, the ranch sprawled before her, even more breathtaking than the picture. The main house was a sturdy, two-story structure with a wide porch that beckoned with rocking chairs. Barns and stables dotted the landscape, and horses grazed in seemingly endless fields. The air was crisp and clean, carrying the scent of pine and wildflowers. A man with a weathered face and a kind smile emerged from the house as Sarah pulled up. This was Hank, the owner of Sunny Vista Ranch. He was a large man, with hands calloused from years of hard work. His eyes, though, held a twinkle that suggested a gentle heart beneath his gruff exterior. "You must be Sarah," Hank said, extending a hand that swallowed hers whole. "Welcome to Sunny Vista. We're mighty glad to have you." Hank led her inside the house, which was surprisingly cozy and inviting. A large fireplace dominated the living room, and the aroma of wood smoke filled the air. He showed her to her room, a small but comfortable space with a window overlooking the horse pastures. "Settle in," Hank said. Dinner's at 6. The boys are always hungry after a long day in the saddle. He chuckled, then added, Don't let 'em intimidate you. They're good lads, just a little rough around the edges. Sarah unpacked her meager belongings, a sense of peace washing over her. This place felt different, real. As she looked out at the vast expanse of the ranch, she knew she had made the right decision. This was exactly the fresh start she needed. She couldn't wait to start cooking. Dinner was a boisterous affair. The ranch hands, true to Hank's word, were a lively bunch, their laughter echoing through the dining room. Sarah, a bit overwhelmed, focused on serving the steaming plates of pot roast and mashed potatoes she'd prepared. Among the cowboys, one stood out, Jake. He sat quietly at the end of the table, his eyes fixed on his plate. He was handsome, with strong features and kind eyes, but there was a reserve about him that kept him separate from the others. His cowboy hat shadowed his face, adding to his aura of mystery. Hank introduced him as Jake, one of our best. Jake simply nodded, offering a brief, almost shy smile. Sarah found him attractive, but his quietness didn't exactly draw her in. She was used to the louder, more outgoing personalities of the city. Jake seemed to prefer the company of his own thoughts. Throughout dinner, Jake barely spoke, answering questions with short, polite responses. He seemed content to observe, taking in the scene with a quiet intensity. Sarah, accustomed to city dwellers vying for attention, found his reticence a little off-putting. She initially dismissed him as just another quiet cowboy, comfortable in his own skin but not particularly interested in engaging with others. He wasn't rude, but he wasn't exactly welcoming either. In the hustle and bustle of serving dinner and getting to know the other ranch hands, Sarah didn't give Jake a second thought. He was just there. Another face in the crowd. She didn't realize then that the quiet cowboy was watching her too, with an interest that ran much deeper than she could have imagined. Sarah poured her heart into every meal she prepared. Breakfast was a symphony of sizzling bacon, fluffy pancakes, and scrambled eggs, served with homemade biscuits and gravy. Lunch was hearty sandwiches, steaming bowls of soup, and crisp salads made with fresh vegetables from the ranch garden. Dinner was always a comforting affair, featuring dishes like pot roast, fried chicken, and shepherd's pie, followed by decadent desserts like apple pie and chocolate cake. The ranch hands devoured her cooking with gusto, their compliments genuine and heartfelt. They praised her biscuits, raved about her pies, and declared her pot roast the best they'd ever tasted. Hank, especially, was effusive in his praise, telling her repeatedly that she was a godsend. "You've got a real gift, Sarah," Hank said one evening, patting his stomach contentedly after a particularly delicious meal of meatloaf and mashed potatoes. "You've brought a warmth to this place that's been missing for a long time." Sarah's confidence blossomed with each passing day. She reveled in the satisfaction of feeding people good food, of nourishing their bodies and souls. She felt like she was finally using her talents in a meaningful way. The positive feedback from the ranch hands helped her feel like she belonged. She was no longer just the city girl trying to make it in the country. She was Sarah, the cook, the one who made the best darn biscuits this side of the Mississippi. She was part of the Sunny Vista family. Even Jake seemed to appreciate her cooking, though his compliments were always understated, a simple good meal or a nod of approval. But Sarah noticed he always cleaned his plate. The feeling of belonging was new. It made her smile genuinely. She started to feel like she had found her place. The city, with all its noise and demands, felt like a distant memory. Here, surrounded by the beauty of the Montana landscape and the warmth of the Sunny Vista family, Sarah finally felt at home. Sarah's old Corolla, affectionately nicknamed Rusty, was a constant source of anxiety. One morning, she found it wouldn't start. Panic flared. She needed to get groceries for the ranch. Before she could even ask for help, Jake appeared, his face shadowed by his cowboy hat. "Trouble?" he asked, his voice low and gentle. Sarah explained the situation, her frustration evident. Without a word, Jake got to work, tinkering under the hood with a practiced ease. Sarah watched, amazed as he diagnosed the problem and efficiently replaced a worn-out part. Within an hour, Rusty was purring like a kitten. "Thanks, Jake," Sarah said, genuinely grateful. "I don't know what I would have done without you." He simply shrugged, a hint of a smile playing on his lips. Anytime, that wasn't the only act of kindness. One afternoon, Sarah found a small bouquet of wildflowers on her doorstep. They were delicate and colorful, clearly handpicked. Hank swore it wasn't him. She suspected Jake, but when she tried to thank him, he just blushed and mumbled something about seeing them by the creek. He started leaving her small gifts: a perfectly sharpened knife for her cooking, a book of local recipes, a hand-carved wooden spoon. Each gesture was small, almost insignificant, but they spoke volumes about his quiet thoughtfulness. These small acts of kindness began to chip away at Sarah's initial indifference. She started noticing the way Jake's eyes crinkled when he smiled, the way he always offered to help with the heaviest chores, the way he seemed to anticipate her needs before she even voiced them. She found herself looking forward to seeing him each day, wondering what small act of kindness he would bestow next. The quiet cowboy was slowly, but surely, capturing her attention. The local town of Harmony held a dance every month at the community hall. Hank insisted Sarah attend, promising good music and even better company. Sarah, feeling a little nervous but also excited to experience small-town life, agreed. When they arrived, the hall was already buzzing with activity. Cowboys and girls in their finest dresses twirled across the dance floor to the lively tunes of a country band. Sarah, feeling a little out of place in her simple dress, stayed close to Hank. Then she saw Jake. He was standing near the refreshment table, looking even more handsome than usual in a clean shirt and pressed jeans. He seemed even more reserved than usual, almost uncomfortable in the crowded space. As Sarah watched, she noticed other women gravitating towards him. They giggled and flirted, batting their eyelashes and vying for his attention. Jake, however, remained polite but distant, his eyes scanning the room as if searching for someone. Sarah felt a pang of something she couldn't quite identify. Was it jealousy? Annoyance? She wasn't sure, but she didn't like seeing other women so obviously interested in him. It was one thing to appreciate his quiet kindness. It was another to see him surrounded by a gaggle of admirers. She realized, with a start, that she was starting to care about what Jake thought of her. His opinion, which had previously seemed insignificant, now mattered more than she cared to admit. Seeing him as the object of other women's affections made her realize how much she had come to value his presence at the ranch and his subtle acts of kindness. She wasn't the only one who noticed him. The sudden awareness made her nervous. She realized she had better make a move, or maybe she would miss her chance. Taking a deep breath, Sarah walked over to Jake. He looked surprised to see her, his eyes widening slightly. "Would you like to dance?" she asked, trying to sound casual, though her heart was pounding in her chest. Jake hesitated for a moment, then nodded. "I'd like that." As they moved onto the dance floor, Sarah felt a jolt of electricity pass through her. Jake's hand on her back was warm and firm, and his eyes, usually so guarded, held a hint of something more. They swayed to the music, a slow country ballad that filled the hall. For a few precious minutes, the noise and the other dancers faded away. It was just Sarah and Jake, lost in the rhythm of the music. Sarah felt a spark ignite between them, a connection that transcended words. But even as she reveled in the moment, she sensed Jake's reserve. He kept his distance, both physically and emotionally. His smile was hesitant, his conversation stilted. It was as if he were afraid to let himself fully embrace the connection between them. When the song ended, Jake stepped back, breaking the spell. "Thank you for the dance, Sarah," he said, his voice polite but impersonal. Before Sarah could respond, he turned and walked away, disappearing into the crowd. Sarah stood there, feeling confused and a little disappointed. The dance had been magical, but Jake's withdrawal left her wondering if she had imagined the spark between them. Was he just being polite, or was he hiding something? The dance had only deepened the mystery surrounding the quiet cowboy. She knew she wanted to know more, She just wasn't sure how to get him to open up. The truth came out in the most unexpected way. Hank needed help with some paperwork and asked Sarah, known for her organizational skills, to lend a hand. While searching for a specific file in Hank's office, she stumbled upon a folder labeled Sunny Vista Holdings. Curiosity piqued. She opened it. Inside were documents detailing the ranch's ownership structure. And there it was, in black and white. Jake's full name followed by sole beneficiary, and a list of assets that ran several pages long. The numbers were staggering, millions of dollars in land, investments, and holdings. Jake was not just a cowboy, he was a millionaire. Sarah felt a wave of shock wash over her, followed by a surge of anger and betrayal. Why hadn't he told her? All those acts of kindness, the quiet smiles, the shared dance, were they genuine? Or was he just playing a game? Had she been fooled this whole time? The revelation cast a dark shadow over everything she thought she knew about Jake. His reserved nature now seemed less like shyness and more like calculated deception. Was he trying to test her, to see if she would be interested in him for his money? She felt hurt and confused. She had started to genuinely care for him, appreciating his quiet strength and gentle spirit. But now, his wealth created a barrier between them, a chasm of mistrust that seemed impossible to bridge. She questioned everything. The wildflowers, the fixed car, all of it. Was it real? Sarah left Hank's office, her mind reeling. She needed to confront Jake, to demand an explanation. But a part of her was afraid of what he might say, afraid that the connection she thought they shared was nothing more than a carefully constructed facade. The discovery felt like a punch to the gut. She couldn't believe it. Sarah found Jake by the stables, tending to a horse. She approached him, her voice tight with suppressed anger. "We need to talk." Jake looked up, his expression guarded. He knew something was wrong. He led her to a quiet corner of the barn. "What's this about, Sarah?" "Don't play dumb, Jake," she said, her voice trembling slightly. "I know." He sighed, his shoulders slumping. "You know about the money." "Yes, I know about the money," she exclaimed. "Why didn't you tell me? Were you trying to trick me?" Jake looked at her, his eyes filled with pain. "No, Sarah, never. I never wanted to trick you." He explained that he had inherited the ranch and the associated wealth from his parents. But he had always been wary of people's reactions to his money. He'd seen how it changed people, how it attracted the wrong kind of attention. "I just wanted to be valued for myself, for who I am, not for what I have," he said, his voice pleading. "I was afraid that if you knew, you wouldn't see me, you'd just see the money." He admitted that he was wrong not to tell her, but he was terrified of ruining the genuine connection they were forming. He confessed that he was drawn to her honesty, her kindness, and her passion for cooking. He liked that she didn't seem impressed by him and that she treated him like everyone else. It was the first time he felt he could be himself. "I know I messed up," he said, his voice filled with remorse. "But please believe me, Sarah. My feelings for you are real. The money has nothing to do with it." He had wanted her to like him for him, not his bank account. He hadn't known how to tell her. Sarah listened, her anger slowly giving way to a glimmer of understanding. But doubt still lingered. Could she truly trust him? Sarah spent the next few days in turmoil. She replayed every interaction with Jake, scrutinizing his words and actions for hidden motives. Was his apology sincere? Or was it just another carefully crafted performance? She wrestled with her feelings. She was undeniably attracted to Jake. She admired his quiet strength, his gentle spirit, and his genuine kindness. But could she truly trust him after this deception? The thought of his wealth was both alluring and intimidating. On one hand, it represented security and freedom, a chance to finally pursue her dream of opening a bakery without the constant fear of financial ruin. On the other hand, it created a power imbalance between them, a sense that she would always be indebted to him. She confided in Hank, who listened patiently and offered some sage advice. "Jake's a good lad, Sarah," Hank said. "He's got a big heart, and he'd never intentionally hurt you. He just needs to learn how to trust people." Sarah knew Hank was right, but it wasn't just about trusting Jake. it was also about trusting herself. Could she be with someone who had so much more than her? Would she always feel like she was living in his shadow? She considered leaving the ranch, escaping the complicated emotions and the impossible decision. But the thought of leaving Sunny Vista, of abandoning the life she had built, filled her with sadness. She had finally found a place where she belonged, a community that valued her, and a man who, despite his flaws, seemed to genuinely care for her. Was Jake's wealth a deal-breaker? Could she reconcile her feelings and find a way to be with him? Or was the gap between their worlds too wide to bridge? The questions swirled in her mind, leaving her feeling lost and uncertain. She needed more time to decide. She needed to see if their relationship could truly be real. A sudden crisis forced Sarah to put her personal turmoil aside. A wildfire, sparked by a lightning strike, raged towards the ranch. The wind howled, whipping the flames closer and closer. Hank rallied the ranch hands, organizing a fire line to protect the buildings and the livestock. Sarah, despite her inexperience, wanted to help. She joined the effort, filling water buckets and providing food and drinks to the exhausted firefighters. Jake, his face grim with determination, took charge of the operation. He barked orders, coordinating the team with a calm efficiency that surprised Sarah. She watched him, impressed by his leadership and his unwavering focus. At one point, a group of horses got trapped in a burning pasture. Without hesitation, Jake rode into the flames, risking his own life to save the animals. Sarah's heart leaped into her throat with worry. When he emerged, leading the horses to safety, he was covered in soot and sweat, but his eyes shone with relief. Sarah rushed to his side, offering him water and a damp cloth. Working side by side, they fought the fire for hours. Sarah witnessed Jake's bravery and selflessness, and he saw her resilience and determination. They communicated without words, their shared purpose forging a deeper connection between them. The fire was eventually contained, thanks to the tireless efforts of the ranch hands and the local fire department. Exhausted but relieved, Sarah and Jake collapsed onto a nearby log, watching the smoke billow into the sky. In that moment, stripped of all pretense and artifice, they saw each other clearly. Sarah realized that Jake's wealth was irrelevant. What mattered was his character, his courage, and his unwavering commitment to the ranch and the people he cared about. She also realized that he saw her value beyond her cooking skills. He saw her determination, her caring nature, and her bravery in the face of danger. The emergency showed them how well they worked together, demonstrating their true compatibility. The sun began to set, casting long shadows across the scorched landscape. The air was still thick with smoke, but a sense of peace had settled over the ranch. Sarah and Jake sat in comfortable silence, the shared experience of the fire having forged an unbreakable bond between them. Jake turned to Sarah, his eyes filled with a sincerity she had never seen before. "Sarah," he began, his voice low and earnest, "I need to tell you something." He took a deep breath, gathering his courage. "I know I messed up by not telling you about the money. I was scared, and I made a mistake. But I don't want there to be any secrets between us anymore." He paused, his gaze locking with hers. "Sarah, I'm in love with you. I have been for a while now. I love your spirit, your kindness, your passion for cooking. I love the way you make everyone feel at home here. You've brought so much joy and warmth to Sunny Vista and to my life." His confession was heartfelt and vulnerable, stripping away all his reserve and revealing the depth of his emotions. He admitted that he had been afraid to express his feelings, fearing that she wouldn't reciprocate them or that she would be turned off by his wealth. "I know it might be hard to believe me after everything," he continued, his voice filled with emotion, "but I truly care about you, Sarah. You're the most amazing woman I've ever met, and I can't imagine my life without you." He reached out and gently took her hand, his touch sending a shiver down her spine. "Please, Sarah, give me a chance to prove to you that my feelings are real. Let me show you how much I love you." Sarah looked into his eyes, seeing nothing but honesty and vulnerability. The fire had burned away all her doubts and uncertainties, leaving only a clear and unwavering truth. She knew in that moment that she loved him too. Tears welled up in Sarah's eyes, blurring her vision. She squeezed Jake's hand, her heart overflowing with love and relief. "Oh, Jake," she whispered, her voice thick with emotion. "I love you too." She admitted that she had been confused and hurt by his deception, but the fire had shown her his true character. She had seen his bravery, his selflessness, and his unwavering dedication to the ranch and the people he cared about. "I was so caught up in the money," she confessed, "that I almost missed seeing the real you, but the fire stripped everything away, and I realized that your wealth doesn't matter. What matters is your heart, your soul, and the way you make me feel." She told him that she loved his quiet strength, his gentle spirit, and his unwavering kindness. She loved the way he made her laugh, the way he made her feel safe, and the way he made her feel like she belonged. "I accept you for who you are, Jake," she said, her voice filled with conviction. "Wealth and all. I love you for your heart, not your bank account." She reached out and gently cupped his face, her fingers tracing the lines of his jaw. "Give you a chance? I want to spend the rest of my life with you, Jake. I want to build a future with you here on Sunny Vista." With those words, all the doubts and uncertainties that had plagued her vanished. She embraced Jake, her heart overflowing with love and gratitude. She knew that their journey wouldn't always be easy, but she was ready to face whatever challenges lay ahead, as long as she had him by her side. The discovery of love had been amazing. It was the best thing that had ever happened to her. Their love story was only just beginning. Weeks turned into months, and Sarah and Jake's love blossomed under the Montana sun. The ranch recovered from the wildfire, stronger and more resilient than before. Sarah continued to cook delicious meals for the ranch hands, her heart filled with joy and gratitude. Jake, no longer afraid to be himself, embraced his wealth but never let it define him. He remained the quiet, kind cowboy Sarah had fallen in love with, but now he was also open, honest, and deeply devoted to her. They spent their days working side by side, tending to the ranch and planning their future. Sarah finally pursued her dream of opening a small bakery in town, using Jake's financial support to get it started. She named it Sunny Vista Sweets, and it quickly became a local favorite. They often sat on the porch in the evenings, watching the sunset paint the sky with vibrant colors. They talked about their dreams for the future. A family, a bigger garden, and a life filled with love, laughter, and good food. One evening, as they sat hand in hand, Jake turned to Sarah and smiled. "You know," he said, his eyes twinkling, "taking a job as a cook on a ranch was the best decision you ever made." Sarah laughed, leaning in to kiss him. "And not telling me you were a millionaire was the worst," she teased. "But it all worked out in the end," Jake said, pulling her close. "I found you, and you found your home." As they looked out at the vast expanse of Sunny Vista Ranch, Sarah knew that she had finally found everything she had ever wanted. She had a loving partner, a fulfilling career, and a place where she truly belonged. The city, with all its noise and demands, seemed like a distant memory. Here, in the quiet beauty of the Montana countryside, Sarah and Jake were building a life filled with love, laughter, and endless possibilities. Their future was bright. The end.